Other,
Oh, hold on.
oops,
Okay.
okay, we'll call the Board of Adjustment meeting together. Order. And we do the election first? Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I'd just like to make a remark. One of the things that I've observed in meetings, not only here with the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Commission, but other organizations is, but particularly here, it really helps to have a consistent chair for back-to-back meetings. And I've noticed here for the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment that sometimes the chairs confuse which meeting it is and inappropriately start to lead a meeting that they should not be engaged in at that time. And so my recommendation is that you have the same chair for the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Commission. That's also helpful because of attendance. If someone's absent, then if you also have a consistent vice chair, things are in place. So just from the viewpoint of somebody observing and what's happened over the last year, I just wanted to bring that to your attention and to the
Okay.
board's attention.
Well, it's hard because two members aren't here,
Right.
and that kind of limits choosing officers. But we've been trying to grow the last year, and I think we've done a pretty good job of it. We're still working on it. So, is there a nomination for chairperson for the Board of Adjustment?
If you're willing, Judy, I nominate you.
I'm willing, but I won't be here the next meeting, unless the date gets changed. So, we'll start right off.
But
on
certainly the
wrong foot.
vice chair could
Right.
run the meeting.
And I would. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And vice chair? I'll nominate Charlie.
I'll second it.
You'll come on time next time. Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're it. So, and we'll worry about the planning commission when we get one called to order. Okay. We're going to approve the agenda and the minutes for the November 16th meeting.
Motion to approve the agenda and the minutes from the November 16th meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business. Glick, Island Trust variance request. Neva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our applicants are attending on the phone line, so I just want to make sure they've caught on. Lynn and James, are you there?
We are here. You're coming through very loud and clear. Some of the people that are a little farther away from the phone are breaking up and difficult to hear.
Okay, we'll try to speak up as people speak during this for you, okay?
Okay?
All right. Madam Chair, this is a variance request for relief from the Cook County zoning ordinance to place an accessory structure at a reduced road setback, which would be 25 feet from road center line, where a minimum of 50 feet is required. The applicant's property is .60 acres and 135 feet of Poplar Lake shoreline. It's entirely within the Lakeshore Residential Zone District and is a non-conforming lot. Poplar Lake is classified as a recreational development lake. The applicants are requesting relief from the road setback requirements of Voyagers Point to place an accessory structure, a 24 by 24 garage on the property at 46 Voyagers Point. The structure is proposed to be no closer than 25 feet from the center line of the road. This property serves to give the owners access to their island property on Poplar Lake, and the garage would be used for winter storage of their boat and shelter for their cars. Due to the seasonal nature of the cabin use, the applicants explain this garage will not be accessed during the winter months. The ordinance citation there is provided that explains that the setback for structures is 50 feet from center line or 35 feet from the right-of-way, whichever is greater. Voyagers Point plat was approved in 1960 by the Cook County Board of Commissioners. It included 29 lots and Voyagers Trail, which included a 66-foot right-of-way width. 18 variances have been recorded within this plat between 1980 and 2019. This lot is grandfathered non-conforming lot of record. The lot has a gravel parking area, a dock, a boat shed, and a small historic shed. The boat shed received a variance in 1988. In reviewing the property with the applicants, it was evident that the lot has very limited conforming building locations due to the small acreage, the irregular shape, and steep slope. The steep slope is quote-unquote sandwiched between the road setback and lake setback. The southwestern corner of the lot is where the garage is proposed as the only relatively flat area of the lot that meets the lake setback. The existing access area is within the lake setback. Additionally, this access point is used by utility vehicles, and there is not additional space to build the garage in this location. There is no septic components on the property, and none would be needed for the proposed development. There are no issues with impervious surface coverage nor wetland impacts. I have an analysis of the steep slope in the staff report so you can understand where that slope is located. Voyagers Point Road is a private dead-end road. The main concern related to this variance is a potential safety issue to the traveling public related to accessing the garage. The proposed driveway location to access this garage is at a curve on the road at the top of the hill. The applicants have indicated in question 7 of the variance application that they intend to trim the dense vegetation along this stretch of the road to increase visibility and sight lines. The wide driveway entrance is proposed to increase visibility. The application was legally noticed and along with all relevant county departments and the DNR hydrologist. We did receive 2 comments. One was in full support and one had concerns with public safety and visibility to the traveling public and road impact. Staff recommendation for consideration. The Board of Adjustment should consider the building location relative to the character of the road in this location. Given the restraints due to lot size and shape, the steep slope, the lake setback, and the road setback, there appears to be no conforming location to build on this lot that isn't on the steep slope. It is important to consider that road access and discuss with the applicants the measures they plan to take to ensure adequate sight lines to be present so that users of the garage can safely enter and exit the driveway without being a hazard to the traveling public. Staff has discussed this with the applicants, and they have included plans with their variance application to address these potential safety concerns, including using a wide driveway entrance and actively managing vegetation to provide as much visibility as possible. Refer to the applicant's application. If approved, the following condition may be attached to this variance request. The garage shall be for storage only and not for habitation. The applicants are on the phone line, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to comment on this variance request?
I didn't hear that.
I ask if anyone from the audience wishes to comment. And there's no one that wishes to comment. Do you have anything further to add to the application?
Mr.
I'm
Clark,
sorry.
Mr. Clark, the chair is
Yes.
asking if you have anything else you would like to add to your application.
I have some comments if I could make them.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to discuss our application for a variance to build a garage on our property in Poplar Lake. Over the last several years, we've been investing in our property to make it more user-friendly for us as we approach our 80s, and to make it easier for our children and grandchildren to use when we no longer can. One of the investments we've made is a new boat, and when you live on an island, it's necessary to have a boat that's reliable and capable of safely transporting not only people, but all the things necessary to live on and maintain the property. The garage is part of that, since it will provide a place to store our new boat over the winter, as well as provide shelter for our car. The narrative that we just heard that Ms. Maxwell just read clearly explains why the site we're proposing for the building is the only suitable spot on the lot. So unless the board has questions about that, we don't plan on spending time repeating why that is and why we need a variance for the road from the road setback. The narrative did describe the one concern about the location of the driveway entrance from the garage to the Voyagers Point Road. The concern is that since the driveway would meet the road on a gentle curve at the top of a hill, visibility of oncoming traffic would be limited for a vehicle exiting the driveway. So I want to spend the rest of the time here addressing this concern. I'm going to start with some facts and then address what we plan to do to minimize the concern. There'll be very little traffic going in and out of this garage. We're seasonal residents for only 5 months of the year. The garage will have no traffic in and out of it for 7 months. The only vehicles using this garage will be our one car and our boat trailer. In over 30 years of entering the road from our existing driveway, we have learned not to back out into the road and always come to a full stop to check for oncoming traffic. Since we live on an island, we only use our car 3 to 4 times a week. As George Carlson has pointed out in his supporting letter, this location for a car would provide safer access to the road than our current driveway. Voyagers Point Road has a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit and is posted at its beginning with a warning sign that it has steep hills and blind corners. It's a dead end, so there's no through traffic. Moreover, there are already several driveways located on hills and curves along the Voyagers Point Road. These driveways are 1 lane in width and bordered by heavy vegetation. Voyagers Point homeowners have learned to use caution and drive slowly on the road as they approach these driveways. The gravel driveway we are proposing will be 24 feet wide when it leaves the garage, and as it approaches the road, it will curve out wider than that. Just that additional width will provide much better visibility up and down the road. The wider driveway will also allow us to turn our car around so we can enter the road going forward rather than in reverse. We'll park our car and boat trailer in the garage and not in the driveway, thereby ensuring good visibility along the driveway and along the road. In our application, we included a photograph, actually labeled photograph 2, of Biz Clark's garage as an example of what we think our garage and driveway might look like. It has a wide driveway all the way to the road. Her garage is located on County Road 85, which is much busier with faster traffic than the Voyagers Point Road. To our knowledge, there has not been a problem with visibility with that driveway. We also intend to cut vegetation back 8 to 10 feet from the edge of the road and 25 feet from the center line of the driveway on both sides. That 25 feet will extend nearly to our property stake on the south and to the top of a hill in the north. This will greatly improve visibility. To summarize, to build a garage on the only suitable site on our lot will require a variance from the road setback. The front of the garage will be no closer than 25 feet from the center of the road and farther back if possible. The garage will not be used 7 months out of the year. And to improve sight lines on the Voyagers Point Road, the driveway will be at least 32 feet wide when it meets the road. Vegetation will be cut back 8 to 10 feet from the shoulder of the road, and this clearing will extend 25 feet from either side of the center of the driveway. Any questions?
Thank you. Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask the other commissioners whether they have questions or comments.
I'm familiar with the road. I do some of the maintenance on the road. I think in this particular site, that is the best spot.
We're having trouble hearing the conversation.
So,
Yeah, if the Board of Adjustment members can try to get as close to the microphone as possible.
I'm familiar with the road. I do maintenance on the road. That is the best site on that parcel for this, and I have no issue with it.
And Mike, do you have comment?
No, I don't. I went up there and I looked at it, and there's really much you can do.
Right. Anyone want to make a motion
Well, motion to approve it
with conditions?
with conditions.
I'm sorry, we're still having trouble hearing the conversation.
There's a motion to approve with the conditions that are in the staff narrative. We're waiting for
I
a
will
second.
second with the one condition.
Okay.
So the second has been made with the one condition. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can you let them know?
Yep, your variance was approved. I'll reach out to you guys tomorrow, okay?
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll disconnect now then.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay. The second variance request is Ari Fuad requesting a variance on Cascade Lake. Neva, do you want to read the?
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a variance request for relief from the Cook County zoning ordinance to replace and expand the existing grandfathered non-conforming dwelling at a reduced lake setback of 45 feet from Cascade Lake, where the minimum structure setback is 150 feet. The applicant's property includes 62 acres with approximately 2,800 feet of Cascade Lake shoreline. The property is zoned lakeshore residential within the first 300 feet of Cascade Lake and forest agriculture recreation FAR2 further inland. The lot size requirements in this area is 2 acres in size due to the lake being a natural environment lake. The applicant, Ari Fuad, is requesting relief from the shoreline setback requirements of Cascade Lake to replace and expand the cabin on the property at 1833 the grade. The structure would not encroach further into the lake setback than the current structure. The property owner plans for the new cabin to be placed in the existing cabin's location, 45 feet from the shoreline, with horizontal expansion occurring away from the lake. The expansion of the new cabin will increase both length and width by 5 feet and an increase in height of 17 feet. The new cabin is proposed to be 33 feet tall. The structure is also located within the shore impact zone. Cascade Lake is a natural environment lake, which has more restrictive lot size requirements and building setback requirements. 150 feet is the standard structure setback for this lake classification. The property currently has a cabin and an outhouse and is the only private property on Cascade Lake. Historically, this area served as a hub for logging in the 1920s and 30s. The applicant has provided a soil survey report submitted by Tom Dwyer. There are no issues with impervious surface coverage. In your packets, on the bottom of page 26 of 109, I have a map of wetlands to show that much of this property is very flat. It's higher up on the watershed and is largely covered by wetlands as indicated in the National Wetland Inventory. And there are no steep slopes or bluffs on this property. Public noticing the application was legally noticed in the Cook County News Herald. 14 letters of notification were sent out to adjacent property owners as well as county departments and the DNR hydrologist. No adjacent owners' comments were received. A memo was submitted by the Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District identifying the need for stormwater management strategies to mitigate the impacts of construction and permanent stormwater runoff due to the close proximity on the natural environment lake, including rain gutters and a native plant vegetative buffer. I included a photo on the top of page 28 to show the location of this private property on Cascade Lake. Staff recommendations for consideration. Since most of the expansion is vertical, the impervious surface coverage is not increasing by a substantial margin. However, since this enlarged structure is proposed to be 45 feet setback instead of the 150-foot requirement, appropriate mitigation standards should be put in place to offset stormwater runoff to this otherwise mostly undeveloped lake. Please refer to the Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District's recommendations. If approved, the following conditions may be attached to this variance request. The property shall conform with Minnesota Rule 7080 and Cook County Septic Ordinance requirements. A vegetation planting plan shall be submitted demonstrating a 20-foot wide vegetative buffer with native plants and shrubs. The 20-foot vegetative buffer shall be maintained and established by the current and future property owners to filter runoff and mitigate impacts of the development. A gutter or catchment system for water retention shall be included on all new or proposed structures to divert precipitation and snowmelt away from Cascade Lake. The structure shall not exceed 33 feet in height, and no component of proposed construction may be closer than 45 feet from the ordinary high water level of Cascade Lake.
Thank you. Does someone here to represent the Fuad family? Can you step to the microphone and state your name and address, please?
Hello, my name is Ari Fuad, and my wife Susan and I live in Grand Marais at 70 Bethany Drive, just west of town here. And thank you for considering this variance request. We bought this property about 5 years ago, and you know, it's our intent to really maintain it as a natural environment as much as possible. As was mentioned, it was a logging camp 100 years ago, and you know, we discovered there was a lot of leftover debris and detritus, which we've been cleaning up, including many collapsed and deteriorating buildings. So, I mean, so far, we've taken away 4 dumpsters of building materials and fish cans and fishing buckets and garbage that was left behind by previous occupants of the property. It's our intent to really try to rehabilitate and preserve as much as possible. The catalyst for this project really is they're running power out there, and so we could make the existing cabin more usable, and that's really the intent here, is to build a modest lakeshore cabin. The least disruptive option is to rebuild on the current location of the cabin. I mean, there is maybe one other location which we've scouted out, but it requires substantial more clearing and a new driveway to be put in. So, that's our request really, is to try to rebuild in place, and I think I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to comment further? Hearing none, we'll close it to the public. And commissioners, do you have questions? Comments?
I do have a question. The increase in size, which direction? I guess I'm trying to find that here, but which direction is it increasing from the original footprint?
Well, it would be, if, we don't have a finalized design yet, but it would go back if we had to, and possibly, a couple feet on either side.
Okay.
Not closer to the lake?
No closer to the lake, no. In
Okay.
fact, it might, there's a little, current property has a little porch on the front, which we might just get rid of to give it a little more space in front.
Mike, do you have comments, questions?
What would be the issues if you moved it away from the lake where you're supposed to be with the house?
Well, I think in the map that, where Neva showed the wetland, immediately behind the current it's mostly wetland. And so, the fallback position would be, the next viable spot is more like 250 feet away behind the wetland, and you really wouldn't even be able to see the lake from that location. And as I mentioned, there'd be substantial incremental kind of disruption that'd be required to build at that location, because it's mostly treed right now.
Okay.
Okay. The one thing that I notice is the lack of vegetation in the front. Do you have a plan to revegetate?
Yeah, I've planted almost close to 100 trees in the areas, and then actually down the grade. Mostly all white pine and yellow birch. And I've already started planting and clearing the front area where there's no vegetation. I've just put in some turtle head and Joe Pye weed and irises. But what I'd like to do is propagate from the normal shoreline, so it's the same plant, not bring in other, there's a lot of heath plants along the front there. So I'd like to just propagate and.
Because the concern is runoff and chemicals, if you're gonna have a lawn out there and.
She won't let me use any chemicals out there, so it's.
Yeah.
It's, we've been cutting back mowing right up to the lawn or up to the shoreline. There is some issue with there's a lot of bedrock right along there too, so it's not gonna be terribly vegetated all along there, but, if you looked at it in the summertime, we had probably some, 18 to 2 feet tall, grasses growing along the shoreline.
Because there is a buffer with the 200-foot setback. It's about 75 feet that should be left in its natural state, right?
Are you thinking of the shore impact zone?
Yeah.
Yeah, our ordinance is a little unclear at the moment about exactly what that shore impact zone should have for existing vegetation. It is very clear that intensive vegetation removal is prohibited, and you are allowed a viewing corridor from the structure to the lake.
Okay.
And there's already 2 or 3 cedar trees in front of the cabin, and of course we'd leave those and encourage them to grow.
You can limb up and still have trees and keep,
Yeah,
Keep a view.
they're beautiful cedars. We don't even want to trim any of
I'm
any.
a tree planter. I've planted over 500 trees on the shore over here.
yeah. Any questions further?
I guess I would just comment that, given conditions 2 and 3, I'm comfortable with this, being that it's in the existing location and with those conditions.
How about the height? That's awfully close to the 35-foot mark. Is it on a slab? Is it
Well,
on
if
a?
we're keeping the footprint small, again, we haven't finalized the design yet. I mean, that's all just sort of theoretical, and so we didn't want to constrain ourselves. If we're thinking of a shed roof, so we could put solar on it, and but those tend to go a little higher in the front.
And then it
So-
slants.
So, and the slope would be away from the lake, facing south. And so, you know, as far as runoff goes, there's very little runoff. Anything that would come off that backside would go to the wetland that's behind the property. Nothing, I think very little flows to the front even today.
Right. Septic site's been identified?
Yes. Tom Dwyer came out there and we found something that's back a couple 100 feet from the cabin that's.
Okay,
I'll make a recommendation to approve with conditions.
okay, the conditions stated,
Yep.
okay.
I would motion, or I would second that. with
Okay,
the
any
5
further
conditions.
discussion? One of the things I'm a little nervous about is the plans haven't been finalized yet. You know, and we're looking at floor plans and pictures, and I don't want to go and see something entirely different than what we're approving.
It'll be very
It's the
similar
footprint
footprint, yeah, I mean.
and the
we're-
height.
That's all, you know, it's a chicken and egg thing. I don't want to go spend $5,000 on a
Right.
design and then have it not be approved, and,
Right,
you know, that's, but, you know, we've agreed to develop within the, the proposed volume, if you will. And, you know, it's, the plan I put in here was something me just fiddling around on a computer.
right. Okay. We'll vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay,
We expect a picnic.
Absolutely. Take you fishing.
okay, the next variance request is the Bredemus variance request to place an additional structure at a reduced side yard setback on Cascade Beach Road. Neva?
I think it's the Bredemus one
Bredemus.
next, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm, okay,
We're getting there.
yeah, I'm reading the next one.
Yeah, and if I may.
And I thought that was the slide.
Yeah, if I may, Madam Chair, I just wanted to provide you an update for our attendance. So Adam won't be able to make it tonight. We have not heard back from Jerry. So I just wanted to let our applicant, Jamon Boesen, know that there's a chance that your hearing might not happen tonight without that quorum.
Okay.
So, but hold on, maybe a miracle will happen. We have tried multiple ways to reach out to him. I'm very sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, the Bredemus application.
Thank you. This is an after-the-fact variance request for relief from the Cook County zoning ordinance to allow the existing water slide to remain at the ordinary high water level setback from Seagull River, where a minimum of 100 feet is required, and the after-the-fact relief to allow the platform tent to remain within the bluff impact zone at the top of bluff setback, where a minimum of 30 feet is required. The applicant's property includes 3 parcels totaling 65 acres and approximately 1,800 square feet of Seagull River and 1,900 feet of the Gulf Lake shorelines. The parcel is zoned lakeshore residential within the first 300 feet of Seagull River and forest agriculture recreation within the further inland. Newly created lots within the LSR zone must be 1 acre in size and 150 feet wide, and for the FAR2 zone must be 10 acres in size and 300 feet wide. Seagull River is classified as a recreational development lake. The applicant, Ashley Bredemus, is requesting after-the-fact relief for 2 structures on the property where she resides year-round with her husband Victor, and is also Camp Birchwood for boys, a seasonal summer camp. So this is 2 variance requests, to be clear. The water slide is the first one. The property has a water slide since the 1970s. In 2010, it was replaced and expanded without any permits. The replacement slide was put in the same general location as the original slide, with the exception of an approximate 20-foot addition at the top of the slide. Given the time since the replacement, staff cannot ascertain the comparable difference between the original slide and the replacement slide. The top of the water slide is indicated in the yellow circle on the next page. The water slide requires variance relief from the shoreline setback. Covered platform is the second variance request. A covered platform was constructed within the top bluff setback and bluff impact zone without permits and placed at the top of bluff. Refer to the map on the next page to show the structure in relation to the bluff feature. The platform was placed up to the top of bluff and is within the bluff impact zone. The platform is noted with a red circle. I included the ordinance citation for both of these requests. So the reason for the request for the water slide, technically the water slide meets a definition of a structure given the height of it. And so staff made the determination that we felt that it would still trigger a land use permit for review. It was either that or maybe a conditional use permit. It was kind of a weird case. But the idea being if we didn't require anything, then everybody could put a water slide up, and that's not exactly aligned with our shoreline development standards. So that's the reason it's an unusual request. Just want to put a little background to that. And then the structure setback request for the platform deck is because of the bluff setback standards. So that is a bluff. There was recently a house approved for it on that bluff, and so the deck is kind of at the top of the bluff, pretty much at the bluff setback, so it's within the bluff impact zone also. So that's the ordinance background of both these variances being needed. For background on the property, currently this property is a seasonal youth camp that has been owned and managed by the applicant's family for several generations. The applicant approached Land Services this fall to inquire about a home build project, during which time a few other permitting issues came to staff's attention. This variance request is a result of a staff site visit which identified these unpermitted structures and needing variance approval to remain in their non-conforming locations. Last November of 2022, the Cook County Board of Adjustment approved a variance request for a house on the same bluff the platform deck is encroaching on. Conditions of approval for that variance are listed for your reference on page 51 of the packets. For septic, the 2 structures requesting after-the-fact relief do not have any impact on septic needs, and there are no issues with impervious surface coverage. I included a map of the National Wetland Inventory to show that there are a fair amount of wetlands on the inland side of the property, and I also included the bluff analysis to show that that slope feature by the platform deck is a bluff. The application was legally noticed in the Cook County News Herald on November 24th. 23 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners as well as county departments and the DNR hydrologist. 3 comment letters were received during the public comment period. All were in full support of the variance request. A memo was submitted by Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District identifying the potential impacts of increasing the impervious surface area on the bluff. Bluff setback standards help minimize visual impacts from structures and provide general slope protection from construction activities. The minimum setback standards do not provide sufficient protection for structures adjacent to geologically or hydrologically unstable slopes and stream banks. In this instance, the applicant is stating the location of the platform deck is on geologically stable granite ledge rock. The water slide has been in place for over a decade in its current form and has not generated any complaints from neighboring properties. A vegetative buffer should be maintained between the development on the bluff and the river to filter stormwater runoff and provide a visual barrier to the public from the platform deck.
Thank you. Is there anyone that wishes to comment from the audience, please?
My name is Dan Bredemus, and this is Ashley Bredemus.
Yes.
And we live at 12586 Gunflint Trail, Slip 85 on Seagull River.
And a couple of you were able to come out and see all of this we were in boats when it was happening, so last fall, I guess. And it was, like Neva had said, it was in combination with our variance request for the house that was approved. And so that deck is, again, I hope I'm not being too repetitive, is at the top of that bluff, which is just a big hunk of solid granite. There isn't much topsoil on that. And the deck is not visible from the river as well, should be noted. And then the slide, we've had a slide since the late 70s. It was in need of rebuilding about in 2010. And so it was rebuilt. And all of this, in the last variance meeting, Neva so kindly pointed out that we called everybody in for this housing variance, and all these other little things popped up over the years that we've had different directors ever since '69. There's been kind of a revolving doors of cousins, aunts, uncles, no relation directors as well that have built things over the years, and we would like to just get on the right page with everything, but understanding that some things are after the fact variances are needed. Anything to say, Deb?
It's probably not possible to move the slide to any other location if the setback is 100 feet. That's quite a ways for a kid to fly through the air to hit the water.
Yeah, that would hurt.
You have to raise it 150 feet higher.
Well, I think it's a horizontal distance back is required, so that's going to be a real problem. As far as the tent platform, if it had to be moved back away from that bluff, we'd have to cut a whole new trail. It's placed where it's placed to avoid moving the trail and cutting more trees to access the other part of the property. So it would be a major ordeal, I guess, if it had to be moved.
Thank you. Okay, no one from the public wishes to speak any further? We'll close it to the public. Commissioners?
I think these guys have got a nice thing going out there, and I don't think we should mess with them.
Okay?
I'm comfortable with this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only thing with the slide is it's a measure that would prevent, what you're doing is what is probably just fine, but if, like Neva said, if everybody had a slide, it'd be a problem. So anybody else wanting a slide will need to come in and be approved. So, any further discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We want a picnic, too.
We'll fire up the water slide.
I want to try the slide.
I want to see you guys go down that slide.
Yeah, that'd be quite the sight.
Woo. Okay, now we'll go to LT Properties. Lori Neeson. Request for placing an addition to a principal resident on the Cascade Beach Road. Is there, Neva, would you care to talk about that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a variance request for relief from the Cook County zoning ordinance to place an addition onto the principal structure at a reduced side yard setback 4 feet from the side yard line, where a minimum of 10 feet is required, located at 4332 Cascade Beach Road. The applicant's property includes 0.95 acres and approximately 143 feet of Lake Superior shoreline. The property is contained entirely within the R1 single-family residential zone district and the North Shore Management Zone. Newly created and conforming lots within the R1 zone district on Lake Superior must be 1 acre in size and 200 feet wide at the structure setback, which makes this property non-conforming. The Lake Superior is classified as a general development lake. LT Properties 1 LLC is requesting relief from the side yard setback requirements of the R1 zone district to place an addition onto the principal structure on the property at 4332 Cascade Beach Road. The structure would encroach 6 feet on the 10-foot side yard setback requirement to allow for a 126 square foot addition to the main floor to expand the kitchen. The addition also includes a loft expansion on the second floor, which would encroach approximately 2 feet in the side yard setback. I included the zoning ordinance citation for your reference. For background, the variance request is a part of a larger effort to maintain and update the 1945 era cabin. The main floor bump out would add space to the existing kitchen. Included in the request is a proposed expansion to the upper level to increase the loft space for additional storage. The cabin is rented out for short-term vacation rental and has been meeting the Cook County vacation rental licensing requirements. The property has had significant shoreline erosion occur, and the property owners have actively worked to mitigate this erosion by installing rock gabion baskets. The property is in compliance with Minnesota Rule 7080 and Cook County health regulations. There are no issues with impervious surface coverage nor wetlands. The property is sloped towards Lake Superior at an approximate 14-foot slope. The application was legally noticed in the Cook County News Herald on December 23rd. 16 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners as well as county departments, North Shore Management Board, and the DNR hydrologist. One comment was received in Land Services at the time of the narrative preparation, as well as one comment from the Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District. The comment from the public was from the neighbor who is opposed to the request. The Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District provided technical information regarding stormwater runoff and shoreline protection. For considerations, the subject parcel does not have any unique physical features such as an unbuildable area due to steep slope or bluffs, wetlands, or constraining lot dimensions or shape, which requires the variance request. It is the existing legal nonconforming cabin's location and the expansion proposal into the side yard setback that requires the variance. The applicant has indicated that there is a historic value to the existing structure that makes expanding and making safety improvements to the structure reasonable and necessary. The Board of Adjustment should evaluate whether the request meets the criteria outlined in the Cook County zoning ordinance. The Board of Adjustment may consider conditions to mitigate potential impacts. For example, a privacy fence may be a consideration, which may be placed up to the side yard line in this location. The applicant may offer other ideas for conditions to mitigate the impact of the variance request. Any conditions imposed must be directly related to and must bear rough proportionality to the impact created by the variance. Additionally, the Board of Adjustment may consider the amount of variance requested in proportion to the benefit to the applicant. The encroachment of 6 feet into the 10-foot setback requirement is a triangle-shaped encroachment, which will result in less encroachment than if it was the full side of the structure encroaching parallel to the side yard line. However, it would still result in a structure placed 4 feet from the side yard line and a 60% dimensional relief from setback standards. The applicant and the Board of Adjustment could explore a partial approval by evaluating alternative design options. Could the kitchen expansion be redesigned to meet the 10-foot side yard setback? If not, could it be redesigned to minimize the proposed side yard setback encroachment? The applicant could provide additional details on the existing cabin's proximity to the side yard line, which could help this discussion. Included with this packet is a staff analysis demonstrating that the proposed addition will be meeting the Lake Superior 40-foot setback requirements. I did not include any conditions of approval because I wasn't particularly specific with what those could look like on this application, so I'm open to discussion on that if you'd like.
Okay, thank you. Is someone here from the family to talk about this? Okay, would you step to the mic and state your name and address, please?
Sure. So my name's Lori Nissen, and I'm here with my son and Abby. And the property we're talking about is 4332 Cascade Beach Road, and we've owned it for 8 years. And just a little history on it, very short, because it's was built in 1945 by a Norwegian immigrant, and it's 900 square feet, and we love it. And my husband and I are close to retirement. We want to retire up here. So with retirement means I got to get that water heater that's in the basement that's about this size and 20 years old out of the crawl space because I can't crawl back there much longer to get it fixed, and it's going to go. And we need to get the furnace up somewhere because it's Jesse Dershaw installed it parallel because it's in the crawl space, and it's supposed to go this way, and we've had issues with that. So I need to get those two things up there, and I need a washer and dryer because I can't keep coming into Grand Marais as I get older. So that's the thing. And then we have kids And, you know, I want them to come and visit, so I need a little bit of an addition for a kitchen. And so we've looked, and I've talked to a number of builders. You know, I was like, what are we going to do about this? Because I like my privacy as much as my neighbors do. And we get along really great with the neighbors. I have emailed them. So we looked at going west, because if you look at the property, it looks like, well, just go west, because I'm thinking, let's go west. I talked to Mitch Everson, our septic's there. When I bought the place, I had to put a septic in. Septic's right there. The other problem with that west side is once you get around my deck, the shoreline cuts back. So I wouldn't be in compliance with the setback to the water. So going west isn't an option. So the other option I could do is...
Are you sure it's...
Sorry?
It's not east?
It's east, yeah.
Stop! I don't know. I always think it's north.
Towards
Okay.
Grand Marais.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's where my son comes up. Yeah, so we're going east. I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Okay, so you know, talking to Mitch and the builders, I can't go that way. So then I thought, well, let's go back. And it's granite rock, and there's a hill there that we walk down in the winter. So I can't go back. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's make a little tiny. It's 9 feet out, 14 feet back. And I think I can get my mudroom, a little bit of a kitchen on there, get the furnace and the water heater all up there is my goal. And I got 2 dogs, so I really need that mudroom. And so we went out, and when Neva came out and Mitch, who were super helpful, we didn't have it staked out as nice because I am visual. So when my son came out and I came up this week, the snow had melted, so we were able to find the 2 stakes, and we ran a long line, you know, a big rope between them. And if it's okay, I know it's there's no new information here, but I did make pictures to show you, because I think visual is helpful. Is it okay if we give you the...
Sure.
Can you do that? But I was super helpful for me, and I did email it to my neighbors, and I apologize I didn't get it done sooner, but I was up here when the snow hit. So we ran the property line. When you see it, we put the property line in pink, and then we staked off the addition, and you can see the part in green there. It's 3 feet by 2 feet is a variance that I'm asking for. So it's super small. And, you know, we've talked to a landscaper, and we want to plant a lot of trees, which we already have. Every year we do the free trees from the conservation. We plant a ton of trees, and we keep up with our property. So, Jake, what else do you need to add? Anything?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah, I guess the green portion there, in my opinion, is fairly small, and I do have a plan with some of my friends who work at a tree planting company to plant jack pines and cedars on the property to help with erosion, and also kind of create a privacy screen with our neighbors.
And I do want to make one comment. I am not doing this because I want a bigger VRBO. We rent it only because of the income that it provides. We only rent it to 2 people, and they're usually my age. We don't rent to young people. We're very quiet. We've never had an issue with, so I just want to be clear about that. Like, I'm not doing a big addition here so I can get more people in there. We are very, like, in love with our cabin. And I call every person that ever wants to rent from me, and I talk to them, and I make sure that they're the couple in our demographics that we want. So I just want to be clear about that, too. What questions can we answer?
Okay. Anyone have questions of the owners? So you got 2'8" on one side.
Mm-hmm.
What's the length of the long side of the triangle?
9 feet. Wait. 3 feet is what I'm asking for the variance, that little tiny green thing. I'm asking for a variance 3 feet by 2 feet, but the whole addition is 9 feet.
Right.
So it's a very small addition. In fact, one of the guys I had come out to look at it, I'm like, what do you think? And he's like, gosh, it's so small, is it even worth it? So we're not like looking to go big. I'm too old to do big.
Okay, so it's about 12 square feet. So is this the neighbor's house in the background?
It is, yep.
Is that a garage?
No,
No,
it's
that's their
their,
house.
yeah, it's their house.
Okay.
And in the summer, you can't really see it, and they're never up there, to be honest with you, which I love, even though I like them very much.
Okay. All right. And then what are you building on top?
So right now, it's just the Norwegian immigrant had 3 kids, and he has a little the loft up there, which we love, and we want to keep that, but I need to be able to store some things. So we're just gonna bump it out even to the back of the house, and we're gonna keep the loft, and then just have a place to store, like some shelves, maybe a little, so we can look out over the lake. So we're not really building, in the kitchen, our plan is not to put anything over it, just to have a, you know, whatever the builder says I need for the right runoff.
So that would be a single story, the addition.
The kitchen would be a single-story addition, and then the loft, we would just be building it out over the existing structure.
To the roof line.
Yes.
To the back of it, yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Which I had Kelly Puss come out to look at it, and he said that this was even before we're gonna do an addition, because when we walk on it, it kind of falls like that. And so he said that I need to do a beam across there. And so when this all came apart, and we just redid our fireplace. They took every rock out and put it back in. And so now we're like, okay, you know what, we just need to bite the bullet and take care of this place. And if we have to reinforce it anyway, we might as well try to get a little bit extra room up on top. Does that make sense, Judy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, is there anyone from the audience that wishes to comment? Okay, we'll close it to the public. Commissioners?
So I'm assuming all of the encroachments gonna go to the neighbor on there. And then neighbor's how far from the property line?
I didn't measure there. I mean.
I think he'd be really upset if you were doing that. I could see he's probably the one that complained.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm. You think what now? That,
So basically, you can do whatever you'd like if you made that an angle across there. Just took that off. It's 12 square feet. It's 6 square feet.
well,
3 by 3 is 9 square feet. If it were a square, and you'd cut it in half for 4.5 square feet. Is that correct? Am I doing my math right?
Yeah, you're doing your math right. And I guess I'm assuming asking for 6 feet is accounting for the
I
overhang.
don't see how we could
no,
allow
I
that
think
to
I just
happen.
measured wrong before.
Yeah, so yesterday
You
we
can
went
be
out and
really
actually walked
pissed.
the property line
Yeah.
and tried to be a lot more precise than a month ago when we submitted the application, and I think the 6 feet was actually a conservative application. And in reality, based off this picture, it's probably going into the 10-foot line there only by 3 or 4 feet.
So
Is-
the pink line, you see that's a 10-foot right there, I think with the rocks, I put the rocks down it,
Right.
yeah. You know, and if we cut that off, I mean, I just don't know what that means to the whole cost in trying to do a corner there. I mean, I'm not a builder, but,
If we cut that area off, we have to not go out the full 9 feet across the whole size of the structure. So it's the square footage that we would lose by cutting off just that small corner there. If you factor that across the whole size of the structure, we'd be losing a lot more than just the 5-foot.
Actually, you
Square foot
could
there.
just make an angle there and go right on your 10-foot line. Put a window in it and make it a feature.
I mean, if we're gonna change all that, then I could just, you know,
Then, I mean, that,
because we have a line, it's a pie-shaped, whatever that's called, a pie-shaped cut on it. So, I mean, if we make the angle, in my opinion, that might look kind of strange. But then I could, you know, I have a lot of room going down towards the lake. A lot more room to go out if I needed to. I could, you know, I could still stay within my property.
Right.
But out. I mean, this,
Yeah.
I think, is just such a small, easy square. I'm a visual square person, but you're right, we could. But if we're gonna start making angles, to me, I think it would look better to angle parallel, which I doubt if my neighbor
my
would-
job is to keep you within the
Yeah,
parameters of
yeah.
the zoning ordinance. And
Right.
the other question I have, there's a well marked on here.
So, can I?
Is that your well?
Yeah, so when we bought the property, there was no survey ever done, and so it's
So it's
our
on the
property.
neighbors?
It was on our neighbors, the Burke one's property, and so we asked for an easement before we would sign it, and they gave us the easement.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
May I ask for a copy of this handout that everybody
Oh, I'm so
got?
sorry,
I'm
Nita.
feeling a little out of the conversation. Thank you. I just want to be sure I'm understanding the, thank you.
Okay,
Madam Chair?
yes.
May I clarify really quickly now that I can see this? So this is for the first floor, right?
Correct.
Does this mean that the upper level bump out is not within that 10-foot setback?
No, no.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, upper level is all within the already existing
Okay,
structure.
so you don't need a variance for that upper level,
No.
just to be clear that that's already meeting the setback, just for everybody's understanding here. The
Correct.
variance is only for the first floor of
It's
the
for
building.
these 4.5 square feet,
Mhm.
if I've got it right.
Yep.
Yeah, well, if you reduced the length of it by 3 feet, you'd be all within the setback. If we reduce the setback to 4 feet and required a vegetative buffer planted,
You know what?
If this guy wants to
might be.
man onto his house, come this way.
Well, that's the vegetative buffer, if they,
If you just
So-
move that along the entire, if you built on the side of the house, you would be within the footprint of
no. did you
meeting
go
the
to it?
setback.
Towards the front of the house?
Yeah, because the 40-foot setback is the front of the house, right?
So I'm not clear, I guess, on the question.
My understanding is that the very front of the house is less than 40 feet from Lake Superior, but it's grandfathered in because it's a
No, it's
pre-existing
in
structure.
different areas.
The very front of the house.
Oh, the kitchen is 40 feet back. Got it.
Yeah.
So that's probably why it was put halfway up the house,
Right.
to meet the 40-foot setback.
Yep.
Okay, got it. And behind the house, you said there's,
I have a picture of that too. Is there's the hill? And I
Yeah.
have enough if you want to take a look at it.
It's a pretty steep hill that's, there's granite. There's now a very thick layer of soil, and then the septic tank is right there
And the
as well.
septic tank. Do you want to look at the back of the house?
yeah, I'd like to see it,
I think I have
just
enough.
for, I'll share.
Here's one more, Jake. And I don't know if Neva wants one.
Okay, I need some help understanding what I'm, so you got the stairway,
Thank you.
where's,
This is looking away from Lake Superior up the hill
right,
to the north.
right.
So like in the winter right now, we park up on top and then we walk down because of this steep incline.
Mhm.
And I had stairs built. I just called the guy, I said, can you
Already
build me
done all
more
this
stairs? Because
mitigation
it's
here.
getting harder with the ice.
'Cause it's falling into the lake.
No? Did you get one? Okay.
But he's pretty close to 10 feet on the lot line already.
And the survey is current.
Yep, we bought
Pretty
it 8
recent.
years ago, so.
Okay.
I was kind of surprised that our realtor said they don't do surveys, and I requested I could have a survey, and thankfully we found out that the well's not there, so I got an easement, so that worked out well.
Yeah.
I guess I'm,
Well, we can go through the questions.
They're in the front, right?
Is it consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan? Is a proposed use of the property allowed in the land use district? Property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the Cook County zoning ordinance. Has the property owner established the practical difficulties involved due to circumstances unique to the property? Will approving the variance maintain the character of the locality? Has the property owner established that the practical difficulty involves more than economic consideration? I think the practical difficulty is where it stumbles.
Can you explain that, like, practical difficult, like I can't, just so I understand it, because this is new for me, I've never done a variance before, so Neva was super helpful.
Well,
So when you say that, like, to me, I feel like I have a difficulty because Helmer put it on such the worst part of the, but that's probably the only place he could
Yeah.
too, but,
well, what we're
yeah.
missing is the entire cabin is within the 40-foot setback, which, and this is another variation from the zoning ordinance that we would be, and
The cabin in relation to the lake is,
right
it's
on
already
the,
dealt with. It's at the line, but it's already dealt with.
Correct. Yep. In this addition, I did go out there and I was very careful in my measurements that it does look like this full addition is outside of the lake setback. It is
Outside
meeting
of the
that 40-foot
setback.
setback. So all you guys are considering is this green triangle.
right.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to like dodge the question, but I'm not quite sure. I mean, when, the difficulty to me is I need to get that like furnace and hot water heater up. And I
Mhm.
need a little bit more room to live for the next whatever. And so, and I can't, unless somebody can help me. I mean, I've talked to a couple builders and they're like, you know, a couple guys said, don't do anything. I'm like, I can't live here. It's so small, like 900 square feet. And the furnace cannot stay there, nor the hot water heater,
I got a
so.
question.
Yeah,
Depends on what you want to ask.
The whole property's in the, is not in the setback, not other property.
No, that's what we were just, the structure itself is all,
Illegal.
no, it's not. It's
No?
all current.
it's
all-
grandfathered.
Is it?
It's all
I know it's
within-
grandfathered in, but it's not, it's not with
It's
the-
not 40 feet
the
back.
setback rules. That's the new setback rule. It's all within that, right?
So the lake side of the cabin is within the 40-foot setback.
Is
The-
what?
The lake side of the cabin is within the 40-foot setback of Lake Superior, but the back side of the cabin is outside of that 40-foot setback. Everything that you're considering is meeting that lake
Is-
setback, so it's not very strongly really a part of the variance request.
We really
So
are
that
just
40
looking
foot-
at this right here.
That 40-foot setback line is through the house. It's not, the house is not fully inside of the setback.
But isn't the setback supposed to be 150 or 100?
Not on Lake Superior,
40,
40 feet,
Oh. 40 feet.
40 feet.
yeah.
I didn't hear that one. Okay.
I guess that, given all that, I would either, I mean, I'm struggling with the economic, more than economic considerations. Ultimately, a septic could be moved, rock can be blasted, but those are pretty drastic
Measures, yeah.
measures for what the applicant's trying to accomplish. I mean, ultimately.
Yeah, it's not an unreasonable request, but I always struggle if it can be done without requiring a variance.
Right.
That's what it needs to do. Tim?
Madam Chair, just for a point of clarification, that's not the standard. The standard, you kind of said the standard is the request reasonable. Back before when it was hardship, the standard was if it can be done without having to do the variance, then you deny the variance. But now it is the request reasonable, which is a lesser standard. That's what the standard is now. when they changed it to practical difficulty.
Right.
And so what I was about to get to is, given the information we have, looking at the way it's depicted in this picture here, is going to reduce to 6 feet, so meaning giving a 4-foot allows for overhang and a requirement of some vegetative buffer to be planted in that. And that's something I could be comfortable with. So that would be, I don't know that I guess I would make, at this point, I would make a motion to approve it at, just as long as you're understanding it, 6 feet, so reducing the ask to 4 feet, and then,
Encroaching 4 feet into the
encroaching
setback.
4 feet into,
Yeah.
or reducing the setback to 6 feet for
Okay.
that corner, and requiring vegetative buffer planting.
Okay. Any other conditions? There aren't any conditions with the recommendations.
I think from what I can see, the other issues on the property are already being dealt with, all the concerns are already covered, so it's,
Okay.
I guess I'm just seeing that spot, so.
Erosion plan or anything?
I think a lot of that will be covered through our land use permit process, but you can ask that an erosion control plan be submitted with the application that will ensure that that will be a part of the land use permit process.
I'm comfortable with adding that as a second condition.
Okay, so 2 conditions?
So what are the conditions?
A vegetative
Vegetative buffer
planting.
and an erosion control plan.
Mhm.
And a 4-foot encroachment. Is there a second?
I have to second it. If there's gonna be a second here, this isn't gonna work out for me, because I don't know that I can.
Either one of you
It
could.
could die for lack of a motion. And then we'd have to make another motion to deny.
Would have been better if I wouldn't have gone and looked at it.
So report
I
what you
just
saw.
really have trouble. This guy over here is gonna be just flipping out, and if he comes in for a request the same thing, we just got a hornet's nest going.
No.
I just. I can
Okay, the
see-
motion dies for lack of a second. Do you want to make a motion?
Why does it have to be me? Okay, I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I think I vote no. I think it's,
Thank you. I agree with you. We can't let this happen.
well, I think it's reasonable that it can be done without a variance. So I will vote no.
Okay.
Mike, you vote no?
I vote no.
So the motion dies. Is there a motion to deny? I'll make the motion to deny the request. Is there a second?
Madam Chair,
Yep.
because it's a denial and the criteria that we have listed, when we do the motion to deny, there should be the listing of the
Right,
request, or
the questions.
Yes.
Okay. So the motion's been made to deny it, and I'm not hearing a second. Should we go through the questions again? And let's,
I don't think we have to, Judy. I really don't.
is the variance consistent with the goals and policy of the comprehensive land use plan guide? It can be. 1, no, and the variance needs to be denied. The second one is the proposed use of the property allowed in the land use district which the property is located. That's a yes. Stop me if you disagree. Is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner? Yes.
Yes.
Has the property owner established that the practical difficulty involved is due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner?
I believe that's a yes also.
That would be a no. If the property owner wasn't gonna do anything, there wouldn't be any issues here.
Has the property owner established that the practical difficulty involved is due to circumstances unique to the property? The fact a septic system is in the way, the fact that that's not a natural problem. Well, we'll put a question mark there. Will approving the variance maintain the essential character of the locality?
Yes.
I would say no. There's the neighbor that's not happy about it. So the character is gonna be changed.
And has the property owner established that the practical difficulty involves more than economic consideration alone?
I would say that's a yes, because the property owner has consulted other builders, has consulted Mitch Everson about the septic and the potential of moving it. Although I think economic considerations are part of it, I don't think it's economic considerations alone.
I'm wondering how far the neighbor's house is from this property line.
I will try to measure it.
It looks close, but
Well, we can measure.
Madam Chair?
can you do that?
Yes.
One thing I just wanted to share that's kind of on my mind in listening to your conversation, there's two things. So we're struggling with practical difficulty. So what's unique about this property, I've spoken with this with the applicant, so what's unique about the property driving the need for the variance rather than landowner created practical difficulty? This is your idea of a project, just because it's in the setback, that's not a practical difficulty necessarily. So that's what the Board of Adjustment is struggling with. Is there actually something physical about the property that's driving the need for the variance? Just because the cabin is where it's at, that old structures aren't a practical difficulty. It's about the land and the landscape. So that is what the struggle is, as I'm observing it. One thing that I wanted to kind of remind you guys that I hear a lot in our land use training with the lawyers is a lot of time they'll make us think about the amount of variance requests that's being asked. Is this a little encroachment to gain somebody a big benefit? I think Jay says don't use a sledgehammer to kill a fly or something like that. So strict adherence to the ordinance isn't required just because something could be totally avoided. It's trying to consider that reasonableness of the request and how much that encroachment is happening and what that benefit is to somebody. So that's something that I was kind of thinking about coming to mind and just observing your conversation and the struggle that we're having. So
Well, this is the most, I mean, we've considered considerably bigger requests than this, and that would be the only reason I would be in favor of it, is the minimal request.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
According to the GIS mapping system that we have on the property, or for the county, it's 22.6 feet. The other neighboring
Right.
structure.
Okay.
Is that what you came up with? Show me. Where did you see it?
Well,
And, you know, people choose where they build, and then we end up with, you know, and not, the middle of the lot is not always the place to put a cabin.
Equal 22.
Okay,
Okay.
let's review the questions.
How about a 10-foot privacy fence?
I would prefer, I'm open to that for sure, but I would prefer like a natural kind of fence, like, I
I
don't know,
just
trees or
would
shrubs.
rather that be thought of than your neighbor coming over and shooting you.
I'm totally fine with that, but I can't imagine my neighbors would want that.
We get
No, I'm
along
talking
with-
about not.
We get along with the neighbors pretty
I-
well.
We get along with Shelley and, you know, the older people, the younger, the one that wrote it. I mean, I honor his, you know, he has his right.
Yeah,
to
it's a
feel that way,
concern
but-
always.
What's that?
It's a concern always. And what do you have for windows on that side of the house?
Just, we have one in our kitchen above the sink, and then we have one more towards the lake. That one doesn't really look at their house so much. There's really just one window where we can see their house.
I'm totally fine with a privacy fence. I would doubt if they would, just because I don't think that really, I think it's more intrusive, but if
It might be a,
Maybe we should put that as a condition unless the neighbor doesn't care if it's there.
Could I add that maybe I should have clarified my intent, the vegetative buffer, I was thinking trees, something that would act as a visual barrier, as a fence, without it being a fence. If I were the neighbor, I'd be more upset about a fence
Yeah.
than planting these trees
But
here.
I'm open to that in
Yeah,
char-
but this is
and-
Carver County, you just don't plant trees.
Oh, some people do.
Well, I am very much about.
okay.
like, erosion, so.
I'm not really, I'm
I'm
okay
all
either
on
way.
for that, like the erosion plan.
Okay.
I don't know what it all entails, but Neva's been super helpful putting me in touch with people. So I'm all about that, so.
So
if
we've
that's what you request, I mean.
Resolve the practical difficulty. You're comfortable with this being a practical difficulty, okay? And we've resolved the other practical difficulty and economic consideration. So the third condition of the variance, there were two. The first two were that it be you change the setback to a 4-foot encroachment.
4 foot.
And you clarified the barrier, either privacy fence or dense tree cover.
I think you said vegetative buffer.
I mean, I guess we could clarify that.
That
What's a
wouldn't be
better
fast
way to
enough for
word
me if
that?
I was the neighbor.
Neva or Tim
The
to
vegetative
get what
buffer
we're
would not
going
be fast
for.
enough.
I
I'm
really
gonna be
am
dead before
against
I get
a
there.
fence.
Oh, get
Tim.
off my back. It takes a
Madam
long
Chair,
time to
just
grow
a point of
trees.
order, I believe you had made a
How many
motion
trees you planted that are
had been
full grown?
seconded by Commissioner Piesecke to deny, so that needs to
Yeah,
be
that's-
resolved if we're going to.
Okay,
It either has.
Right, if we're comfortable with the property owner being
Okay.
22 feet plus away, I can overlook everything I was talking about.
okay, so we need to vote down the motion to
Deny.
deny.
Vote down.
So all in favor of denying the request? All in favor of not denying the request, say aye.
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 There you go. Now, we need another motion. You want to redo it, Harley?
Go ahead, Charlie.
I guess before I make it, I would ask for some help with clarifying the vegetative, the vegetative buffer I was talking about. I'm envisioning that being the visual barrier, a natural fence versus actually building a fence.
I think you would make a condition that a vegetative visual buffer be created in combined efforts with the land use, or the Land Services Department and SWCD, that would provide sufficient obstruction between the properties, view of the building or something to that effect.
Okay, is
Yeah.
everybody comfortable? Do I need to repeat
Yeah.
what Tim said for my motion? Are we
I
all
think Tim
comfortable?
got it right.
Neil's writing it down.
Okay.
And the erosion control plan.
And the
Is
change in the
second. And
setback request, the variance request.
4-foot encroachment or 6-foot
And that includes the
setback.
eaves?
And that includes everything.
Okay.
And it looks
Okay.
like, based on the drawing that they gave us, that can all fit.
Okay. Okay, motion's made. We need a second.
But I'll make a motion that we approve.
No, he's got the motion.
You got it. I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You still did it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll send you a summary tomorrow morning.
Thank you, I need that. I
Tomorrow.
appreciate it. I'm gonna, I have to
So it can
Mhm. Drive safe.
Okay,
be shrubs and grass.
so
Conservation district.
we have worked through the agenda.
They do? Yeah, but I'm still
Motion to
saying if it
adjourn the
was
Board of
me,
Adjustment.
being the
Okay.
neighbors, I wouldn't accept that.
Did you make that, Charlie?
Vegetative buffer in 6 feet. Now, you're talking
I'll
like
second
just
it.
4 feet of the setback away, so he's got 6 feet there.
Meeting's
Nobody
adjourned.
heard us. To me, that's not enough
I
for
always feel
vegetative
like
buffer.
I'm such a screw up.
6 feet. What if he wants to put an addition on now, come more to his, then we gotta do, I just don't get
And
that.
very-
There are properties in this county that shouldn't be